Okay. All right. Welcome back to the tavern. Cheers and huzzah. All right. I apologize for the last tavern stream for not having one this I think it was the first weekend of this month. It just got a little crazy. We reopened the museum, the John Neville House, for everyone and to the public, and we had cleanup day, and then we had opening day, and it was just a lot. It was just a lot going on that weekend, and I was supposed to originally do, hey Bill. Hey, yes, our guest has entered the room. Yeah, here, but yes, good. What's up, April? All right, so we're gonna let April on here in just a moment. But I, just wanted to apologize for not having a tavern live stream earlier this month. It was just very, very crazy, like I said, with the reopening of the John Neville House, and but we're back on, and actually next week, because April falls kind of weird as far as how the weekends go this year, I am going to be doing a bonus tavern next Friday, and for that one I will be talking about my take on Tudor England, why it's inspiring my next album, and also, just kind of like my whole thoughts on Richard III versus Henry VII, that whole War of the Roses debacle. So I'll be kind of discussing a little bit of that. Also, happy to announce that I am, some of you probably already know this, but I'm now a contributor to Celtic Nations magazine, their website. I have a blog there called Gothic Celt, and that's another home for these tavern episodes as well. So I'm really excited about that, and have some really cool guests coming up in future episodes, and I'll be announcing those here at the end of the episode. But right now I am going to let April in. So let's see. All right. Go live. Okay. Request to join, so. Okay.
Hello.
Hi,
Tiffany.
Look at you. Got your haircut. I
Thank you. It's so fun. Woo! Yeah.
I know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. Because cheers. I know, where's my drink? I came all the way down here and left my drink upstairs. Oh well, I'll just drink with you in spirit.
Oh no.
You might have to let me run off for a second. Yeah. Oh, it's good to see you too.
Yeah.
You look great. You're so bright.
Yeah.
You're all bright and cheerful despite being inside still forever.
Yeah, exactly. So Hughes Taylor joined us. Hey, what's up?
Hey, Paul. Hey, guys. Good to see you.
Hey, everybody joining us. Yes.
Party in the house. Woo! I know.
I know.
Who needs a ball? Who else needs a ball right now?
Henry VIII.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Is that the Disappearing Wives? I love that mug. That is like the best mug ever. It is so great.
I'm drinking a golden latte in here.
Oh,
so
perfect.
I figured Henry would love the golden latte.
Oh, of course.
So only that.
He would totally approve. I have a funny story about that mug. I got 2 of those mugs at the Tavern fair a few years ago, and my father didn't realize that he weren't allowed to microwave the beautiful Disappearing Wives. I mean, it's great. It is a really funny story in our family, because my father, I love my father. He's a wonderful man. He ruins every favorite mug I ever buy. And so he microwaved that with coffee in it, right? And we're just like sizzle, sizzle, smoke coming out of this. And we're just like typical family kitchen story. I'm like, what is going on? And I look over and we open up the microwave, and it was like, it was just awful. It was terrible. I was like, Dad, you had to kill, you killed the wives again? Really? You had to, he felt so bad.
Really? It wasn't enough for them to die.
No. He had to nuke them. Yeah, so anyway, I joked to Mike that we got to go back to the fair just so I can buy a couple more of those, but it's the most adorable mug. It's so cute.
Just in case.
Yeah,
so.
Why not? Just because.
Oh goodness. Yeah. Hi everybody joining. Hi Liz.
Hi.
Hi guys. All right. Well, it's awesome to have you
Thank
here
you for having
again.
me back.
And
It's great to be with you too. I'm
yeah.
so missing everyone. So missing, right? I mean, I know we're all like broken records. So I just want people. I want to go to a ball. I want a 18th century banquet. I mean, we finally get back to events. We're gonna party. We have to party.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I know this would have been the week that, hey Liz, this would have been the week that we would have all been getting ready for Fort Frederick, because that would have been taking place, I believe,
Yep.
this, like, not this weekend,
Next
but next
weekend.
weekend.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so yeah, it's just kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
and,
It's like ready. It's like,
but yeah,
yeah.
I know, but, yeah, but, you know, and it's kind of like I might just take a just a road trip down there, like just for the heck of it. Not this coming weekend, but maybe like I might plan, because I usually go to Gettysburg and everything, which I plan to go to Gettysburg again. But yeah, but like, you know, I might just go down there just to visit the fort, you know, even if there's no market
I know.
there.
Well, I know. I feel the same way. It's like not being there. Some of us have, you know, many of us have gone for like so many years. It's literally part of like, it's like a family reunion. It's part of it's part of my soul at this point. I mean, I feel this community is, you know, I'm like really, I feel like we're on life support at this point. It's like we all have this, which is wonderful, but it's like I need some blood in my veins, man. I need to go be with my peeps. And it's like not being there for a second year in a row. This would have been like my 17th or 17th year. And I know I'm like, I just don't know what to do. I'm not there. It's like the cycle of the year is totally interrupted, and it's painful. So I might just go with you. Maybe we'll just have a picnic or something. I don't know.
Just have a picnic.
Yeah,
why not?
Everyone come to Fort Fred for a picnic, then everyone will come. They won't know what to do with us. I'm so crazy like that too. I would totally do that. I'm so rebellious in the wrong kind of way. I'm always the one who's like does something really, really corny but rebellious. You know.
But rebellious.
Yeah.
There you go. yeah. But speaking of you know, living history and everything, I have to kind of show my little tavern setup like I do.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Mythology Candles Cave Troll. I did an unboxing of it. It's their new Cave Troll candle, and let me tell you, I know Cave Troll doesn't sound like it would be the most pleasant smelling thing.
I so want to know what that smells like. That's intriguing to me. Cave Troll.
It smells like I would come, you know, because I burn it as I'm reading the book The Mists of Avalon, which is the King Arthur story told from the female character's perspective. Yes, it's awesome. And I burned this while I'm reading that, because it's for me, because when I did the unboxing and I was like kind of describing the way it smells like I would, how, if you've ever read the book Wuthering Heights.
Oh yes.
You know, yes, it's like, or at least seen a movie or something like that, you know. Kind of how the English moors would smell after a rainfall. That's how I would, you know, that's how I imagine, you know, this.
Yeah, like misty and
it's Cave Troll. And like the notes are, you know, earth, mossy, stone, you know, it's like, so it's basically notes of packed earth, mossy stone walls, decaying leaves, and mushrooms.
I love the decaying leaves part. I mean, that's great. You know?
Yeah. So it's actually, I love it. Like I said, I ordered it when they came out with it, and I was just like, you know, I was like, you know, because I love Mythology candles, so I was, you know, just kind of like, you know, I've been buying all their candles and everything, or most of them at least, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'll get this. I trust them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not gonna.
You're not gonna be disappointed.
And they're all non-toxic.
Right. Oh, that's even better.
And they're all non-toxic. They're made out of coconut wax, and you know, and like they're like, it's all like, you know, free of all the bad stuff and everything. And they have a wood wick instead of like a regular wick, which crackles. So it sounds like you're in a, like there's like a campfire in your home, which is really cool. And then also by them, I have it's the White Witch. It's from their Narnia themed collection, that always winter, never Christmas. Lots of peppermint in this one. I
Oh,
love
that
it.
sounds
So
great.
the White Witch.
Cool.
Yeah. And I also have like their a little tin of their bearded tree candle from their Lord of the Rings collection, and then the Camp Coffee candle from Fanny's Boozy Jams and Jellies.
Ooh.
So they do like a lot of more Civil War themed stuff, but speaking of them, because I think last time when you were on, I mentioned their, their alcohol infused
Yes,
jams.
which was.
Well, now they have CBD infused
Oh,
jams.
get out. Oh my gosh. I have to say,
Is that not the most awesome thing?
I am like a CBD, I don't know what you call me, virgin newbie. I've never actually ever tried. Now, I'm not against it. I just have never tried anything CBD because I feel like I will probably trip. I don't know. I'll probably trip out of my mind and be like, maybe I'll create some amazing things. Maybe I need to start with a CBD infused jam because that sounds really good.
CBD infused jam, yeah, because they're
like scones.
Yeah, and they're licensed to sell it and everything. So
that's great. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting some. Y'all need to buy it.
Yeah,
to survive the rest of this year.
Yeah. Yes, this is their wild berry, their mixed berry jam. Tastes awesome on a sprouted grain English muffin. So yeah, but and then this one is hot pepper mango. I'm almost out of it, which I put on like chicken or fish and everything. But yeah, but this might be a good intro to CBD oil if you haven't.
And then I'll come on and I'll be like, hey, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I use CBD. I was gonna say I use it after my workouts. I meant the actual CBD oil, not the
right. Because you have to tell. I was gonna say, Tiffany. So you have to tell us because having no experience with this, do you take it? It's sort of like obviously CBDs to like keep your joints and muscles like from inflammation and all the other things. So I imagine you don't take it before a workout because you could hurt yourself, right? Just like I shouldn't take it before I sew because I'll run over my hands with the sewing machine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so bad. I mean, it doesn't have like like the THC and everything in it that would that actually would like kind of
trip you out.
Do something. But but it's actually it's the it's a very it's the healing part of the cannabis plant and everything, and and so it's Fanny's Boozy Jam, they have now CBD jam, and hey, I just
you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. I tell you, these days, I mean, I've never burned so many candles in my life. I don't know about you guys, but I do. I feel like it's a really simple thing to do to keep you positive. You burn candles.
Yeah.
Yes, Paul says don't rub yourself down with the jam. Yes, thank you, sweetie. I know.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I was like.
That's correct.
I meant with the
I wouldn't know. I'd be like, oh, it's Boozy Jam. Here, I got a sore arm. Let me put it.
Hey, there you go. Hey.
Because I am the kind of like total moron that would do that. I'd be like, what do I do with this? And I'm like that. I was that kid in high school who was like, okay, when you're done like being silly, I'll drive you home because I don't do the silly things. But I was always reliable in that sense. I am. I was still fun, but I was just like, I was 35-year-old. I was like, you're gonna regret that tomorrow. You're gonna regret that tomorrow. It's gonna be terrible. Anyway, but it's I feel like I'm burning candles. I'm doing anything. What do you all do to stay sane right now? I mean, I'm like streaming. I'm now into streaming like music from YouTube and calm radio, anything that's sort of atmospheric stuff. I know people were into that. I'm sure you being a musician probably kind of were on that page earlier, but I found it's funny, like everyone's like, oh, I stream this, I stream that, it's so relaxing. I was like, oh, I never thought about streaming like soundscapes, and now I'm totally obsessed with it. Yeah. It's so nice.
Oh yeah. I've gotten, I'm a big music person, so I've always had some sort of music going on in the background, whether it was my own because I was just kind of listening to how things sounded and what I might want to change or something, or if it was like other people's music. I've always done that, but like I've been kind of like getting a little bit more into like the soundscapey kind of stuff. I also have been listening just to like, just different podcasts, like different history podcasts. I've been discovering some. I've been discovering like just like some new ones too and everything. I've been, since my new album that I'm working on is Tudor England themed and everything.
I'm so excited for that.
Listening to and watching a lot of stuff on the Tudors and and all that, and even pre-Tudor, like the Plantagenets and War of the Roses. They're very fascinating too. I mean, because everybody knows about the Tudors, but like, but even getting before that into the Plantagenets and Elizabeth of York and Henry Henry VII, he was Tudor, but then
it was
Richard
so
III.
tumultuous. It almost makes,
Yeah.
I mean, Henry VIII, you can't, I always say it's crazy when they change the stories. We all have our different movies we like, we all have our different versions, but
Yeah.
I feel like you can't improve on the insanity that was Henry VIII and, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all there, right? But like they still kind of mess with it in every version of anything, but at the end of the day, I'm like, previous to Elizabeth York and all that story of the War of the Roses, it just makes Henry look boring. I mean, it does. It's absolutely,
right.
Yeah, but the music is so,
yeah.
Oh, the music, it's one of my favorite eras as well. And I was just like, I heard you were working on that. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm super excited because it's such a beautiful period. But I mean, the politics, yeah. Oh boy, yeah. I mean, crazy.
That was crazy. Like you didn't want to get on the king's bad side.
No, and you didn't. I don't think you wanted to be a pretty girl. Not in not in those days. I wouldn't want to be around anybody I'd be like hiding under the table, like, I'm not here. I don't want to marry anybody. I don't want to marry anybody. Yeah. I just want to sew in the corner. Can you leave me alone?
I just want to do music over here.
Yeah. I don't know if you think that, but like I've always thought that. I'm like, if I had lived back then, I would hope I was just like not noticeable because I wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want to catch the king's eye.
Yeah, not me. Some people would make a great career out of it. I'm just a bit like, oh, I'm good. I'm gonna go over there and sew. I'm good.
Yeah, but even like with Elizabeth I, like you didn't want to get on her bad side, or Mary the First. Even then, you didn't want to get on their bad side, either. Whoever was in power, you didn't want to get on their bad side.
Absolutely. I have to ask you, who was your favorite out of like all the series? I mean, everything from like Blackadder to the series movies. Who do you like? Whose portrayal of Elizabeth I do you like the most? Now, you have to probably choose a comedic and a very serious one. But if you had to choose like one, who's like your favorite actress or your favorite version? What was?
Ooh,
I know, right? It's tough. Yeah.
I know. I did really like Kate Blanchett in Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. I thought she played Elizabeth like she was just spot on, and she had the look and everything. Like, she basically like she was Elizabeth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would have to there's a lot of like, there've been a lot of really good portrayals, but the one that stands out to me the most is Kate Blanchett and her portrayal as Elizabeth. How about you?
Well, as far as somber, serious, I was raised on Elizabeth R, which was that version, the stage version that the BBC did, and I think it was about 1975 or 77, something in that era. Now I wasn't watching it at the age I was at that year because I was very tiny and actually not even relatively here. I was here a couple years after it was out, but the point is that my mother loved history. She gave me the history bug, and one of the first things that she had on VHS in the house was the Elizabeth R series. And I mean, it's, it's super authentic. It was the old stage play. I mean, Glenda Jackson she for me knocked it out of the park. Like, just when she just stood up there and was just like, I am the absolute monarch. I mean, she just and later I found, Glenda Jackson's still alive and she's an MP. She's just she stands up and talks and you're just like, oh, you're shaken. So I love her, but I also love the portrayal in Blackadder, the really silly portrayal in Blackadder with Miranda. Is it Miranda Richardson? Who's just she's great because I love that show. And in our household, the joke is kind of like, give me a Prezi, give me a. Because she pushed that whole thing about her her core years had to constantly give her presents. So, I want a present! And so whenever anybody has a birthday in our house or something, we're always shouting something. And the outsiders are like, what are these people? Is this some sort of silly, stupid, corny inside joke? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but those are my two favorites. Those are my two.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, those are good ones. And did you ever see Rain?
No, I did not.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. I've seen bits and pieces of it and previews.
Same thing. I know what it is. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to check it
Hmm.
out, just to see like how they portrayed Elizabeth the First and then like Mary Queen of Scots and
Hmm.
everything.
I feel
So
it's hard to keep up anymore.
yeah,
There's
it's
so many
always
good
interesting.
series, and you're like, oh my God, no time.
Yeah, yeah, and of course they take creative liberties and everything,
Hmm.
but I always enjoy just seeing portrayals and different takes on different historical
Oh, me too.
figures.
Me too.
I just because obviously they whatever version they have, they probably got it from some sort of document or some sort of,
Hmm.
like whether they're portraying, like, say, somebody's more humorous side and maybe a more comedic version,
Yeah, definitely.
or they're portraying like their more tyrannical side or their more temperamental side, because there are so many there. I mean, here's the thing, like there were so many different sides to these
Hmm.
people, and that's what I discussed with Fair May when I had the mom, and I think last time we kind of briefly touched on
I
this
think
too.
we
It's like,
did. Yeah.
we kind of need to remember that these were
Oh yeah.
people.
Yeah.
They had different sides to them. I mean, even Henry VIII had his good
He did. He did.
his good
He did. He
qualities.
had some great qualities. He did some
Yeah,
amazing things. He was called Defender of the Faith for a very good reason. He was very
yeah,
God-centered. My theory is that it was that fall during the joust when he was married to Anne Boleyn. Bad head injury, folks. Let me tell you. I mean, yes, I was a figure skater for years. I bashed my head on the ice more than once. That explains a lot.
yeah,
No, but seriously, it's. I mean, he did some amazing things. He had a terrible injury to his head, to his back. I guess his spine. They thought he was dead. Then he kind of, he came
yeah,
back, and I don't know. I read a really really amazing book on it a couple years ago that one of the foremost sort of biographers of his, and they pointed that out. They said,
mhm,
he might not have been quite so tyrannical in his, that era. It's sort of that was like a turning point for him. And I really
right,
think that had a lot to do with it. But it's interesting because he did some amazing
yeah,
things. He wrote some amazing things. He was a really, really
yeah.
interesting and very devout Christian, which is just something people don't even realize
Yeah.
about him. So,
Right, yeah. And in his early and it cracks me up when somebody when they have a male actor portraying like a young Henry VIII and he's like very handsome, very athletic, and people are like, that's not how Henry VIII
right,
looked, because they think of that ginormous painting, and it's like, do you honestly think he looked like that at
right,
18?
yeah,
Like, come
yeah.
on, think
No, I
people,
know, I know. People don't, they don't think
like
out of the
they,
box.
but it's just kind of
Yeah,
right. It's like, no, that was a picture that was painted of him like when he was like actually pretty. I think it was pretty recently, like toward the
it
end of his
was. I think
life.
it was in the last. If I remember, it was in the
Yeah,
last 7 years of his life. I mean,
but within the last like 7, 10 years of
yeah,
his
yeah.
life.
Just like
Yeah,
everyone thinks of, they think of Elizabeth the First, like Gloriana, in the full starched wired collar with the heavy white makeup. And I mean, she was on the throne for quite a
yeah,
time before she got, decent amount of time before she got smallpox, and before she started dressing in
yeah,
that incredibly theatrical way that she had dressed near the end of her life. So I mean, it's the same sort of thing. I mean, I think there was probably a longer part she dressed theatrical, but there was a good chunk of her early reign she didn't look like what we think of her. She was a young woman. She was like,
right.
I think 25 when she got the throne. So it's, yeah,
When she was on the
yeah, we
throne.
think of
Yeah,
people in these like
and
very sort of like, we always think of them as like a painting or a character, but they're just as complex as us
right.
today. It's as complex as when, this is anybody messed up today. So,
Exactly. And the thing is, and that's what I really liked about what they did with Kate Blanchett's portrayal of Elizabeth, was that it showed her kind of wild haired and dancing in the fields and
yeah.
everything. And like, and that, I mean, that was Elizabeth, I mean, I'm sure there was like some of that still left in her
Oh, yeah.
when she became queen and everything. And, I mean, yeah, she had her stately manner for, for when she had to have it, but I mean, they were like I said, they were all human. They
Mm-hmm.
were all, they were people. They had their, their times of, when they wanted to party and when they wanted
Yep.
to, like just kind of go in their chambers and be left alone,
Yeah.
But yeah, but that is, I did think that like Kate Blanchett's portrayal of Elizabeth, like that's, I think she did a very
She
good
did
job.
a very
of,
good
like,
job,
doing
yeah.
both
I mean,
sides.
I liked the
Yeah,
sort of like her emotional range in that series. Wow, especially the Elizabeth
mhm.
first movie, because what the second one was about the golden era.
The golden age.
Um,
Yeah,
and I really appreciated like Kate Blanchett's like emotion, like just in her eyes, like just moved from one moment to another, just fiery and really convincing. Yeah, I really
yeah.
did like that series too. Um, and it can't, and of course Kate Blanchett is just good at like, she's just
Oh
really good at
yeah.
those like deep
She's a
emotional
phenomenal
roles.
actress to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, but the thing about Henry, because like I said, like how, like when they cast like a young Henry and he's not this like
Grossly fat.
ginormous guy with a beard,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like he's like actually this young, handsome, athletic guy. Well, there's actually record that Henry was, that's how he
Yeah.
was in his younger
Oh, yeah.
years. That's how he was actually prior to his jousting
Yep.
accident. And it was after his jousting accident, and I think then after, especially I think also after like Jane Seymour died, that's also when he
Yeah.
started to kind of go into a
Depression.
downward spiral.
Yeah, he was depressed. Yeah.
Exactly. And and I'm sure, I mean, he felt guilt. I mean, because I know people are like, oh, he never felt guilt for what he did to Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn. It's like, how do you know?
I think he probably did. If he was a human, I mean, he was a human after all. So I mean, I think
Yeah.
we like to think of him as this like raging sociopath or psychopath, but maybe he had some like tendencies towards that. Definitely, I'm not a psychologist, but I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Especially after
but that's just
yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
a major accident. So what we know now is that causes problems psychologically. Bad brain injury, he had like the wound on his leg that never healed. It was probably always infected. So
Yeah.
probably constantly, between like a rage from the pain and a rage from the bacterial infection, no doubt, that was coursing through his veins. It's amazing he actually lived as long as he did. It was really kind of crazy. But no, I think I
Right.
think part of him must have felt guilty, and I think he was always torn because, he really did, from all the records, he really did love Catherine of Aragon, and it just, he just needed a male heir. He was so worried about the country going into civil war. He was so torn, and his father was, had pounded that into him that was such a big deal, and I think that probably the pressure made him more tyrannical. That's just my take. I do have a little bit of like sympathy for the guy. I think, but I feel for these poor young women. Like I said, if I was a woman in Henry's court, I'd have been like rubbing dirt on my face, like, please don't come near me. I don't want to go near the king. I've been scared.
Yeah.
I mean, like knowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And even with Anne Boleyn, I do think he loved her too.
Yeah.
I mean, he pursued her for 10 years. 10 years, that's a long time to pursue someone, especially if you're the king and you can have pretty much any woman you want.
That's what I always think about.
Why go to that trouble unless you're like, and overthrow the church?
Yeah. Well, I think about that often. Yeah, people don't really, in a lot of times people they hear about the story, they like it, and then they think, it's like in most movies, they make it seem like it's a short period of time. Yeah, it's like, it was like this huge period of time. It's like, what must she have, she must have been, not just about attractive, she must have just been an incredible person to actually keep his attention in that way. Because, you think about that, like she must have been either she was very witty, they say. She was very beautiful. It was probably a good combination, right? But also, she's probably very ambitious. She had to have been ambitious. Yeah. Otherwise, you've just been like, forget this. I'm going to go marry this guy and hang out in the country where I don't have any, where I have very few problems.
I don't have any,
Oh, no.
Yeah, but like, there's this woman on YouTube that I discovered, Claire Ridgway, and I also got a couple of her books, and she does a lot of research on the Tudors, and I really, really like her take because she kind of does it as more of like a hobby, but it's kind of turned into her thing. And she's done a lot on, and her YouTube channel, it's called the Anne Boleyn Files. Ooh. And she's done quite a bit on Anne Boleyn. She's done stuff on the other Tudors too, so it's not just all Anne Boleyn. But she really, like, she kind of gets into a lot of the myths regarding Anne Boleyn, and she does get into like how, like, descriptions of her were saying that how she didn't look like the typical English Rose. Like she actually had like dark hair, dark eyes, and like a slightly darker complexion and everything, which also probably made her stand out too. Like she had like, you know, like that kind of like a darker, mysterious look to her. And I think they kind of portrayed that in the Tudors with Natalie Dormer, like her having just that whole like mystique about her and everything, and whether she, you know, whether that was just her natural, you know, charisma, or whether she was, because I know she did spend a lot of time in the French courts too. Yep. So she probably would have learned, I mean, she definitely learned a lot from there too, you know, how to carry yourself. And so I think in many ways, just from those two things alone, she was quite unique and quite different. And, you know, and also, like, she wasn't really jumping to give Henry the time of day even. So, yeah. You know, I mean, and the nice thing that like what Claire Ridgway does, it's like, you know, she kind of like, you know, she takes all the different documents and everything, and you know, because there is, you know, because unfortunately there are often gaps in a lot of historical records and everything, and who knows, maybe those are hanging out in someone's chest in the basement somewhere. That's the part of history I love, because you know, they found, okay, so yeah, did you hear about, they found the death certificate for Robert Dudley's wife, who had fallen down the stairs. That turned up in a historian's sort of search for another document in the Tudor era. That only showed up like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it was like this big deal because everyone was trying to figure out, you know, did Elizabeth I, did she have Amy murdered? Did somebody break in and throw her down the stairs? Did Robert Dudley take out his own wife? Like, what was the deal? And it didn't really prove that one way or another, but I thought, like, that is the, and then that's just it. Like, this guy was going, this historian was going through a massive binder of middle Tudor documents, middle era Tudor, and looking for something totally different. And then this just sort of literally fell out, and he recognized what it was, and he was just going, that's interesting. And it was the death certificate, so it gave them another sort of clue as to more information about what actually happened other than the accounts. So that's the part of history that is really the coolest thing. I think there's so much that eventually someone will be like, oh, I know everything about Anne Boleyn, and then somebody will be like, hey, we found this, you know, someone was cleaning out. We found this over here. Yeah, it's like, I love that about England. I love that about England. It doesn't seem to happen in America because we have so little history. But, you know, I mean, it just doesn't, we just don't have the cachets of like, oh, I went up to the manor this weekend. We're so quite new compared to other countries, you know? Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go to our grandmother's manor house and open up a chest and find, you know, family treasures, which I just wish I could. I mean, that would be so neat. I'm so envious of that sort of thing. Meanwhile, they're over there probably going like, I want to go to America and like live in a modern house. And we're like, I'll move. I'll swap houses. We'll swap houses. Yeah, when they say I want to go to America and live in a modern house, I'm like, why? Right. The grass is always greener, right? I know, right? Because if you, I mean, so one of my great aunts was a war bride. She came from Manchester in 46. She came over in 46. And I spent a lot of time with my mother's extended family. I was pretty much raised by that generation of people that went through, that were born between about 1906 and 1920. And so I remember her telling me that's why I'm so old school. I really am. I was raised by that generation. I was just like with them more than my parents. But long story short, oh my goodness, she was like, I mean, I can't do her accent. It was this beautiful northern accent, which was just like gorgeous. Even she always joked and said, oh, it's so working class, you don't want to sound like me. And I'm like, no, I love it. I used to just sit there and listen to her and drink tea. But she used to say, oh, I loved coming to America because not only had the war totally ravaged England, but of course, you know, like we were like this bright, gleaming, chromy. I remember her using the word like chrome almost at one point. So it was just like everything we thought about America was new and shiny and bright and clean and opportunity and everything, and everything that is good about America. Right. But I was always saying to her like, but I love old things. I want to go to Manchester. And she was like, no, you don't. It's cold. It's rainy. It's, you know, you don't want to go to Manchester. It rains all the time. So sorry, I get like all excited about it because I just remember like I just loved that growing up, and she taught me how to drink tea properly, and I used to think I just became a total Anglophile at that point.
Meanwhile, she was
Yeah.
like, she was all about like, ooh, she would love, like, she would buy plastic stuff. And it was like, oh, plastic. Like, even in the 80s, she thought it was amazing that she could just use Ziploc bags. I mean, she just,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh,
they
wow.
just didn't have plastic.
Yeah.
So it's different now, of course, but yeah, just interesting
Yeah, of
things.
course.
Grass is always greener. We always want like what we think is charming and romantic or what is new and shiny. I don't know. Human
Exactly.
human
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, my big goal, I'd love to own one of those old Victorian houses. I don't know if I'd want like the really big ones because those, I know those would be very, very, like those would take a lot of maintenance, but even just like a smaller one,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, I'm just like, yeah, I think that would be
Oh
awesome.
yeah, I could totally see you rambling about a great big Victorian house or even just a small like very like really beautiful sized bungalow that you could just totally, you know, kid out because the Victorian aesthetic is totally you, and that would just like,
Well,
well, I mean,
thank
like you have that. I mean, you fit into a lot of different eras and sort of I think you know genres, but I really could just see you being like your soul is just like walking around a gothic mansion, just like, here's my tea, here's my, we just fit in, just like,
Here's my
yeah,
tea.
here's my, where, you know, just like walking around with a teacup, like you would just fit, it would just be like totally your aesthetic. It would be great. Plus, like, I mean, you look great in dark colors and very, very like mystical sort of, you have that sort of like feel of the beyond. And so, like, I could just see you in a haunted mansion. I could just see you in a haunted mansion and just
I
being
love
like,
it.
yeah, so you need to do that because there are a lot of haunted mansions
I love it.
on the
Yeah.
market right now.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. I'll be like that 70-year-old woman who's just like walking around in her dark garb and just kind of milling about her dark Victorian house. And
You could
there
creep
you
out the
go.
neighbors and by carrying candles around at
That's,
night and just, I mean, why not, right? Live life eccentrically.
that would be my big goal in life. There you go. I have something to work toward.
You do. You do. And you could fix it up and make it like a blog and do, I mean, you could just do, I don't know, I'm giving you bad ideas. I'm leading you down the garden path, like the gothic garden path, but oh, I could see you doing, like, I could see you doing really well with that. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Very cool. Yes, I love that. Cool. All right. So now I touched on this in one of my last live streams. It was just with myself, but and I'm going to be touching on it briefly a little bit more as I continue. But I know like in the living history world, like and I've been wanting to discuss this more too with other people like who are kind of like mind in that respect. I don't know if you've come across this, but I know, you know, in the few years that I've been doing this, I come across people who are either extreme purists, like if you go even just a milliliter, millisecond off off whatever, if like your thread's not exactly right, or if you say, or if, you know, one little thing, it's like, oh my, it's the end of the world. It's complete and total blasphemy. Yep. And then on the other side, you have the people who are just like entertainers, I guess.
Anything goes,
say.
right? Anything goes.
Anything goes. Who cares if it's not accurate? We'll repeat every single cringeworthy historical myth out there. You know, it's like there's two on the other side. Like I'm in the middle. Like I think the two have to go hand in hand.
I am too. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like what are your thoughts on that?
It's such a good topic to talk about because I think this is the one thing that people always want to discuss usually in a very positive way. So yes, I have some. Yeah. Whew. Okay, so there is a place for polyester. I know that's shocking. People are going to be like shocked, like, oh my gosh. Oh, so my theory, especially when it regards like things like, you know, my specialty fabrics and clothing reproduction. So
yeah.
There are upholstery grade fabrics that are still being made with like multiple wefts that create the effect and look exactly, literally woven almost exactly like they were. The effect and the look and everything is completely spot on, but the fabric content is not 100% silk. So if I'm reproducing a high-end court robe à la Française 1775, and that does the original gown or the aesthetic of the gown, the purpose of the reproducing of the gown more justice, then I'm going to, and then it hangs the right way and it looks the part. That is to me 99% of the point. If it looks authentic, because
It looks
then, and you're not camp cooking in that dress, so it does not matter that it's flammable. It does not matter. That is completely permissible in my opinion, my experience, because if I try to find a different fabric, let's just say, I'm trying to reproduce this sack back in a specific type of serpentine, crazy woven damask, I'm not going to find it. I'm just not going to find it in silk. And if I do, it's going to cost the world. Silk lampas, as they call it now, is just like, oh, if you can find it, and then if you can get enough of it, and then if you can afford it. So I have very strong feelings about if the only way to reproduce, like I use a lot of nylon mesh lace these days, especially for things like kerchiefs and caps. It looks just like the cotton netting. They hardly make the cotton netting anymore. So you know what? Again, you're not camp cooking in it. It has the look and the feel, and it looks more like the original than if I tried to use something so purist. If I was so purist, since I'm only, so, I fully disclose to people, okay, so I'm reproducing this, and I'm using this because it's closer to the original. Full disclosure, you make the decision. If you don't want to wear nylon mesh, don't buy it. If you don't want to wear a polyester dress, don't buy it. But in those rare occasions, it works. So when I'm out, especially like in the museum setting, I always tell people, so if it looks the part and it does better justice, then that's okay. So if I'm hearth cooking even, and true story, used to cook, I've cooked at many places like yourself down the years, different sites, been involved here, been involved there, and used to cook a lot at Brandywine Battlefield, Brandywine, Pennsylvania. And so in the winter we would do these cooking programs where the different houses all over the battlefield were, we would have living history, so people come in, there's a fake fire. 9 times out of 10, no one knew the fire was fake. They didn't know it was fake. It was the really convincing logs with the crackling, and they had the little thing spinning, and it would hit the little. It was hilarious. And because the building was actually heated, no one could really tell. But they would walk up and be like, "Oh, power of suggestion. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is great." I was like, I'm like dying, like all dressed, all authentically dressed and demonstrating cooking, and they're going crazy. And once in a while, someone would walk over and they'd recognize it. They'd say something. But in between that, and I would have all this food laid on the table, and I would be cutting things and cooking something. We weren't really allowed to cook in some of those buildings, but we would do we would have real food on the table, but alongside it'd have the fake fish, the faux this, the faux that, and it was such good faux food. Hardly anyone ever noticed, and if they did, they didn't say anything. So again, it's sort of this is a better representation, combining the real and the false is fine if it gives an overall authentic impression. That's my opinion. Yeah. So if you want to be a psychotic purist, sorry guys, if you really do, you want to just that's great. You can do that. You want to go out and you're like, I'm not sleeping in a tent, and I'm not going to get water from the water buffalo. I'm going to go get it from the creek. And I'm going to, that's awesome. Good for you. You rock. I am not that strong. Yes. Yeah, Paul's like, faux food, yay! If you guys need, faux food, go to Paul McClintock. His faux food is amazing. I got a bunch for my tavern, and people, honestly, Paul, no one knows that huge tavern meat pie is not real. I have fooled so many people. It's great. So again, it's if it looks the part, and it gives the impression, and it gives the aesthetic, and the other thing too is if you want to be that way, great. Don't force it on other people, especially in an environment if it's for fun, okay? If it's you're out reenacting on your own, and maybe you're representing a site, so maybe that would take a little bit more. Maybe you want to be a little more respectful of if you're representing somebody else. But I think there's a mix. That's where I stand. I think a mix of authentic and faux and synthetic and real. I think that's the only way to do it, because if you choose one or the other, you have the two extremes, and the extremes in the world never do anybody any good. To be so extreme on one side or another of any argument only leads to complete and utter. So exactly. Mix it up.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's because I guess I think it was at a living history event that I was at, it was a couple of years ago, and I was and apparently I was, and there was this what I we were talking to a purist. I won't say the name. Y'all probably, I mean, he's probably pretty well known in the living history community, so I won't say the name. Shall remain nameless.
Understand.
But yes, but because I had purchased something from a tent of a Celtic group and everything that was there. And it was this cool little tote bag with like these Celtic symbols on it. And I was like, this would be so cool to carry because I was looking for something to carry my music to, like for gigs and everything, especially for the gigs where I'm doing like early music and everything. Right. And even when I do my own like Celtic rock and everything, it's like I'll still use it and everything. But I was like kind of showing, because how sometimes you show what you got, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I got this tote bag from blah blah blah, and then this person goes, oh, I wish they wouldn't sell stuff like that, and I'm like, because it's not authentic, it has nothing to do with what we're doing here, and I'm like, first of all, who asked you?
Just my lip go down. It's like, who's being mean? Like, come on, and maybe that's the point. Like, if the settler has like a really neat tote bag and it's helping him make a little extra money, and then it helps you because then you're excited to carry it. I mean,
right?
You're right.
And I was just like, well, I got this too. Like, I was like, well, it's just for me to carry my music and everything, and they were like, well, I just carry cloth bags everywhere. And I'm like, do you want a cookie? I mean, good
no,
for
I know,
you.
right? I know. It's true. It's true. Pat you on the back. No, I mean, like, that's the thing. And I always approach everything from the point of view of kindness, too. It's like, if you haven't got anything kind to say, sometimes you should just keep your mouth shut. Just because, like, I know we all are so encouraged to have opinions, and opinions are important. But sometimes it's like, just knowing when to just be polite and not like try to make sense. A lot of it's one-upmanship. I do find that really interesting.
Right.
I had a couple women approach me in Canada many years ago during a really big reenactment up there. And I was coming from camp and I was walking, literally just minding my own business, walking from camp out to the battlefield. And I had a bedgown over a pair of black bound red linen stays and a petticoat. I'm just, coming from camp. I looked like disheveled like a camp follower would. And I kid you not, these two women who I'm sure didn't mean to be total poo heads, but they were. They went right up to me, and the one literally this was 21 years ago. So walked right up, and the woman literally put her hands around my waist, and sort of did that thing where they start turning you. It's like examining it, and I'm so young at that point. I'm just like, what in the world is going on? I've been invaded, right? And I'm just like, can I, what? And you see how she did this? No, they would never do that. And you see this here on the, and you wouldn't walk, honey, you cannot walk around with your stays just out like that. You just can't walk out with I'm just like, actually, there's quite a few images showing the front of the stays being worn with the bedgown of this sort. I just went straight to it. I was just not one-upping. I was like, no, actually, no, there's documentation for this. And if you read this book and you read that one, you look at this original. And it was so funny because they didn't know what to do. They thought I was going to be crying or confrontational. And I was like, oh no, let me.
Yeah, because you're this.
I was like, yeah, let me inform you of my documentation. And then they just totally were looked at you oh, and then they walked away. And I wasn't alone. There's another young woman with me at the time who was a friend of mine from camp. And she was just what just happened? I was like, I've been hit. It was terrible. And ever since then, I thought, that's the sort of thing that people have happen. And I mean, they had an opinion, and that's fine. But did they have to touch me and tell me the opinion? And
exactly.
So there's always a right and wrong way to deliver your opinion and/or your information. So yeah, but I always feel like when people generally tell you very strongly what their opinion is, it's usually because they're more insecure about the subject. And so just try to take it with a grain of salt. But I always feel like it's a good opportunity. The prickliest people, the ones who tend to be the most critical and/or the most purist, often just really maybe not good at conversation sometimes too. I mean, there's lots of reasons for it. But I always feel like whenever we're any one particular extreme, we just don't make friends. And who wants to go into this community and not make friends? I mean, come on, like everyone just wants to have fun and portray history, and we're on it for lots of reasons. But I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and but what gets me though is like about like when the people who are like super harsh about like that stuff, and it's just like they're also the same people that complain about, oh, this is a dying community, oh, there's not going to be enough people to carry this on, and it's just like, that's because you chase them all away with your purist
you must be inclusive. You must be utterly inclusive in all walks of life. You must be inclusive. If you don't like people, why are you here? You don't want to be. Exactly. And I think a lot of what draws many of us to these communities, living history and museum work and music and all the different aspects of sort of like the historical communities. A lot of it is knowledge sharing, and we all love the aesthetics. I mean, I don't go dress up in Georgian clothing just because I'm bored. I do it because I love the clothing, and I love the history, I love the period. So sometimes it's just insecurity, but yeah, it is true. A lot of people will be very critical, and then they'll say, I wonder why a lot more other people don't want to like do this correctly. Well, could have something to do with the way that the information is being. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
You have to make it, you have to be approachable. I mean, I've had even people that, in the living history community that I really respect, have, people kind of like shun them and everything. And these are people that have been in it like way longer, and, and it's just like, and they've had people like just kind of like be very cliquey with them too. And I'm just like, like why? Like, what's the point?
Yeah, well, you don't like people, and we get on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's in the same, like I said, those are also the same people that complain when there aren't enough people like joining up or, coming out or wanting to do this. It's because, they probably, I'm sorry to be harsh, but they probably meet people like you, not you personally, April, but I'm saying, to the purists out there, because they probably meet people like you, and then they run away screaming,
Yeah, we've all had it happen.
And it's just,
it's everywhere. I mean, it's no different than if you go join a modern dance group, and like I've heard stories of people say, I really wanted to learn ballroom dancing, and I went ballroom dancing, and then there was this really, pushy person who like would throw me around the room, and I didn't like the group anymore, and I had to leave. I was like, there's always a lemon here and there. You just have to. You have to decide whether I turn them into lemonade without them even realizing it. See, that's my gift. My gift, and any of you that know me a long time back, I walk into a room, if someone goes, I don't like you, I go, I'm really sorry. I think you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you should like me. Because I get under people's skin because I just was born. My gift is that I love people, and I just love people. And I've always made really quickly people sometimes purr because they expect me to get my back up. Sometimes I cry, but I mean, at the end of the day, I just love people. So I tend to be good at those situations, but yeah, there's always a lemon, but I turn them into lemonade because I won't let people steal my joy. And I get down like anybody else, but I feel like sometimes you have it's that fight or flight. You either run away crying or you decide I'm going to try to work with this. And sometimes, it ends up working out and that person isn't actually, they aren't even mean or ill-intentioned. Sometimes they're just bad at communication or they're just really, they want to be assertive about something, and you're just like, okay, let me see why you're so assertive, and then see what your point is. Then maybe we can find common ground. But yeah, it's hard. There's always a lemon. There's always a lemon here and there.
Yeah, and and then you have like people on the other side who are at like an 18th century event, and she's talking about how her husband's going out and hunting saber-toothed tigers.
Right.
Yeah, saber-toothed tigers in the 18th century. Please don't do that.
It's funny. I was having. There's such a difference between culturally too, like how we do reenactments and rendezvous. I was actually speaking with a good friend today from the UK, and I was asking him. He was talking about rendezvous, and I said, Mark, what's a rendezvous look like from like there in Britain compared to a rendezvous here? And it's so pertinent to this conversation, and I'm really glad I got to talk to him about this today, because he was like saying that basically his sister does everybody does live firing just like they do at rendezvous and things here, live shooting. But she does like a full Victorian kit because she shoots percussion. So she like has like her full Victorian tartan and all this, and she likes it because she's got stays and helps her shoot. And I have a girlfriend who's really into live, rendezvous shooting, and she tends to wear early 18th century. The point is that in Great Britain, he was saying a lot of the rendezvous, because there's not thousands and thousands of people at those, they're a little smaller. They sort of choose a time period. Everyone might be there for like a live shoot for the weekend for an event, but there's all different time periods together. And I'm like, wow, see, we don't really have that much here. We have that in some groups, but we tend to have like enough people to have like a Georgian event and a Civil War event and this event. And so when you have someone show up to an 1812 event dressed in something or, something else, it just doesn't work. You're like, oh my goodness, that person's wearing the wrong era. Someone should go tell them. Or, it's like it's a totally different attitude. It can be interesting. And or someone that just doesn't care, that's different. I mean, I've known people come to an event and just say, I'm just gonna wear what I want, and I don't know, good for them. That's all well and good. It just depends. But if they're trying to portray a certain period, and they're going, well, this is authentic for, if they show up in 1890s and it's supposed to be like 1860s, it's like, well, no, maybe you probably should not do that. But I don't.
Not do that.
Yeah, some people just don't care. They just want to enjoy it, and good for them, know.
And the same also goes since, I do like the events at a history museum, and and it's just when you hear like some of the docents like repeating historical myths, and you try to gently say, or even just like mention it in conversation, you know, and yes, here's the evidence and everything, and then they're like, oh, okay, and then they still repeat it.
So what is your favorite misinformation? I know what my favorite, well, not my favorite, the one I think is the most common that I've heard the most, sort of museum misinformation by wonderful people that maybe had just heard. We all get told something at some point. We all start somewhere. We all grow, whether it's professionally or we're doing. But what is the sort of like the one that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up the most? I know what mine is. What's yours?
The fainting couch.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
The fainting couch. Please don't ever mention the fainting couch.
Let me guess. Okay, so because they laced the women so tight that as soon as they were in their corsets, they had to go fall down and pass out.
Go faint. Yes.
Yeah. Because humanity's that stupid. Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah. And they actually did have, and they had pregnancy stays too. They had pregnancy corsets, because I've also heard the whole thing where, because of the whole like loose women thing, you had to be tightly corseted. So if you were pregnant, you were housebound, because it's like, first of all, that depended on your status. I mean, if you were wealthy, you could afford to stay home and just have servants wait on you hand and foot. Then you probably wouldn't really go out and be seen.
Very true, but no, working class women of every era, you see them. They are, fishwives are slinging fish till they push that baby out. I mean, there's just, and the pregnancy stage, they would, they stick out, they lace at the sides, and it almost looks like a ship ready to launch. It's crazy. It's really hilarious. Look at the images of them. It's like, oh, she's pregnant and she's wearing stays, and obviously she's not contorting herself, or whatever the term is, to kill the baby and hurt herself and remove ribs. I know all the misinformation. Usually, I always wonder why the crazy misinformation lasts as many generations as it does, because usually it's so nonsensical. It's like they laced themselves so tight that they fainted. Well, then they would stop after a while, because that's just plain stupid. The one that I always hear that I love. Yeah, what about you? Oh, it's the in the past, food was often so rancid or spoiled. That's why you see all these exotic spices being used in lots of recipes, so that you could cover up the taste of rotting food. Well, let me tell you this. Spices, as you know, in any period other than the modern age we're living in, were expensive and kept under lock and key, and that is not the reason that things were spiced. They didn't use pepper to cover up the smell of rotting meat. You always have a season where things are a little sparse, but the only seasoning that will actually cover up rotten meat is like chili, and they didn't even use that. I mean, it's just a total fallacy told by people that don't know anything about food. And generally they just,
I was gonna say, yeah, you're into food too, so you would
yeah,
know.
food and clothing. That's my
Yeah.
food. That's the food one that I often hear people, if I'm in a museum setting or have been. Usually with the clothes, it's something to do with stays. People will walk in, if I'm at an event selling my wares, then people will walk in the tent and often say, whether they're a newbie or someone who's just from the modern community or wherever I have the stays, display the stays, people will go, oh, it was terrible corsets. Oh, people remove ribs. And they just start straight into that, like, you know, just slew of misinformation. And depending on...
Oh, yeah, the removed ribs. I hate that one,
Sure.
too.
I'm like, yeah, without anesthetic and without antibiotics. Like, come on, guys, use your brain. This is not, you know, come on, like in a nice way. That is stupid, guys. That is just plain stupid. If you actually sat and thought about it, it doesn't make any sense. But people will really go to town, and they'll often talk about how these garments repress women and all the things that we know that absolutely aren't true. No, in fact, I've learned down the years from working in museums and countless things, the stays are just like a support belt. They are a wonderful, as you know, they're a wonderful garment. Like anything, they can be abused. Like anything, they can be uncomfortable. But if you have a good pair of stays and the right type of stays and wearing them right and they're cut right, it's just like a bra. Would you go to the store and buy a bra, bring it home, wear it, or try it on or whatever, and if it's just horrific and it hurts and it does not work, you're not going to keep wearing that bra, are you? I wouldn't, no. So, I mean, it's the same with a pair of stays. Like, a pair of stays is made usually to fit you, and it's worn a certain way, and they would understand that, just like we understand today. Then again, fashion often makes concessions. If you want to look fashionable, sometimes you have to put up with a little bit of pain. I remember reading, so Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, wrote at one point in her diaries, because she left a lot of documentation, bless her heart, her poor life, crazy woman.
Right.
She had a pair of stays in the 1780s, which she wrote something to the effect of, if I remember correctly, my stays were riding me. Like, they were so high, she said they were so high and so conical that they gave her a great bust line, but she was just so rubbed under her arms. And she said when her lady's maid took them off, she just felt like, you know, she was free again. And I thought, well, you know, there's that, but that's no different than like going to a ball today, if we all could ever go to a ball again. Let's make a ball, by the way. And then, you know, coming home and getting out of your dress and you're just like, oh, this is great. I mean, you loved being dressed up, but then you have the relief of not being dressed. So I think all those little weird things, the disinformation is usually because people haven't experienced it, and so they just hear something and then they run with it. But yeah, it's always interesting to hear what people think a period is like, and if they've experienced it, it usually changes them. They usually go 360 and never disseminate that information ever again. So
right, yeah. And then there's some that do anyway, like even if they do know better and everything. And like, why do you think that is?
Sometimes I think it's just how do I say this without sounding unkind? It's kind of just laziness, because if we really research the period, like let's just say you have the average docent at certain places, like sometimes people really want to learn, and they'll read everything that's given to them, and then they'll also do more research, and then they'll just make a real study out of it. And then you have people who are really well-meaning, but they just kind of regurgitate exactly what they've heard other people say. And they also have things from, let's just be honest, TV. We all are so influenced by the media that we see, the television, the movies, even if we know in the Tudors, even if we know watching the Tudors, it's like, it's all wrong, it's all entirely wrong, but we still get shaped by that. We're still shaped by everything we see. So occasionally we might see something and then just like put up with it because we realize, well, you know, whatever, there's reasons they did that, and we sort of get used to it. So I think a lot of people just get used to misinformation, and especially when it comes to historic topics that they're not knowledgeable about. I used to say this to when I trained interpreters at one of the many sites that I've been involved with down the years, and trust me, I'm still learning. We all still learn. I wouldn't go up to the barn and proceed to tell anybody on the tour the real deep minutiae about the woodworking tools. Or, I mean, I would tell them about what I knew. I understand the type of barn, when it was built, who built it, everything that I had learned that I knew was solid. And if someone would say, honestly, what's that for? What's this for? Did they do this? And I do not know, but I'm going to get you over to one of the other docents whose expertise is woodworking or animal husbandry
Exactly.
or whatever it is. A lot of times you have to just be
Yeah.
willing to admit to like, I don't know.
That's not my
That's not
area of
my area of expertise,
expertise.
right? So maybe
Right.
the long answer is we have to be willing to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard this,
Yeah.
but that might not be true. But you know what? I'll get you over here. So part of it's probably just that
Hmm.
some people are just, like I said, in the nicest way, lazy. Maybe they just regurgitate what they sort of heard and they don't really want to do a lot of other
Hmm.
research. We've all been on a tour, bless their cotton stockings, where we know someone's been at a wonderful site for years. They're just a wonderful person, but like you can tell that they memorize the tour. Okay, they memorize the tour and they don't
Yeah.
deviate, and so they often can't answer questions, and they sound like kind of like it's very scripted. There's
Yeah.
good for them. I mean, that's it's not like it's a horrible tour. It's more like you understand that maybe that's not like their area of expertise. Maybe they volunteer her on a Saturday and they love the site, but like it's not their thing. It's not truly their passion.
Right.
So I always try
Yeah.
to keep that in perspective too. But I do think sometimes people are just kind of like
Oh
they're just
yeah.
kind of like, it's what I've been told, and I don't question it. Maybe somebody didn't train them that was very knowledgeable, but for the most part, I feel like these days we're
Right.
seeing less and less of that, which is so wonderful
Which is good.
because like you
Yeah.
said, we've got people now where we can have experts in anything. We have our own Instagram
Right.
channels, we have our own YouTube channels, we have all this medium, and I mean, there's still disinformation, but it used to be, I mean, think about
Yeah.
it, years ago, it's like if you were interested in Georgian childbirth, it wasn't like you could just go to the library and grab a book. Now you can be like, Georgian childbirth, and whoo, all this stuff pops
Yeah.
up, and it's absolutely
Oh, absolutely.
mind-blowing. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty good perspective on it too, and everything. And yeah. All right. Well, we're getting on to the hour.
I know it always goes
All
so
right.
fast. I was gonna say to you,
I
what do you miss
know.
most about Fort Fred? What do you miss most? Like, is it the people? Is it the
Oh,
shopping?
I miss the shopping. That was like, I mean, the people and everything, but that would be like my first big shopping. I mean, I'd get a little bit warmed up at the Lewisburg
Oh
artisan
yeah,
event and everything, but yeah, but those are also a lot of the Fort Frederick people too. So it's like would be like, okay, see you in April, see you at Fort Frederick. And I do like I really just really just miss like the whole community there. I miss just walking into the fort, especially going for a walk at
oh
night
yeah.
and walking into the fort just at like it's just
I know.
I don't know
I
why,
know.
but it just
Oh, I
it
know.
gets it like it has like a whole different life almost like it takes on a whole
It's
different
transportive.
persona.
It's transportive, right? I know
Yes.
when you're out there, it's like anytime you go camping. So you're out there at night, all the cars are gone, we're all there, those of us that camp, and all you hear is the hum of people, the fire, the dim.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so romantic. Like you hear the crackling of fire.
Yes.
I hear you. It's like it's soul cleansing. It is soul
It
cleansing.
really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And the same thing with Fort Niagara. Oh
Yeah.
my
I love that
gosh,
fort.
just walking into that castle at night
Hmm.
and just looking out at Lake Ontario
Yeah.
and oh my God, like it really does. It's like when the tourists are gone and we're not hearing anybody's cars and all you're hearing are like the people and you're just like hearing like seeing all the fire the different like all the different fires and I know at Fort Niagara we also have like the native camps and the Native Americans, they're doing like all of their like native chants and all that stuff, and then we have like the British here, and I'm always with the French, so we have like the French and
Hmm.
everything, and we have like some French Canadians in our unit, and so they're speaking fluent French and
Wow.
all that. So it's like it's just like but Fort Frederick, like walking in there at night, like it's just like wow. I mean, it's awesome during the day, but there's just something about going to these places just at night when there's just nothing. I guess it's less tainted by the modern world, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, but that's what I miss the community. I miss the shopping. And of course we can always, you know, buy from online. But of course, I'd love to support everybody, but it's not the same.
I know. I feel like there's nothing like the tactile experience of life that, you know, just going and
Yeah.
seeing new things and seeing what this person has, you know, done differently this year and how they set up their tent differently. I know it's oh
Yeah. Yeah. But all right. All right. Thanks for coming on. All right. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. And I will be, okay, I'll be actually joined by Eliza Vince Lychik on May 7th and everything. So I know I can't hear you anymore either, April, but it's okay. We're done, so we don't. But yeah, I'm gonna be joined by her blog is Silk and Sass 1776. So I'll be joined by her on May 7th. Really looking forward to that. And she and her husband might entertain us with a little music too. And next week for my bonus episode, I'm going to be talking about the Tudors. So, all right. Well, thanks, April, for joining us. And all right. Yeah, I know you lost sound. It's all good. But all right. But thank you so much for coming on, and everybody else. Thank you for joining us. If you somehow missed it, the replay will be on. So, all right. Thanks very much. And cheers. Huzzah. All right. And all right, my Henry VIII mug, my golden latte's done. So, all right, signing off. See you next time. Thanks, April.